truth.
Hello, and welcome to Word of Truth Podcast. Our mission is to shine the light of biblical truth on the questions of life. Hosted by Stephen Brown and Stone Anderson. Enjoy the show.
Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is true. Yeah. Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is true. Yeah. Word of truth.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the fourth episode of Word versus World. I am your faithful co-host, Stone Anderson, and I'm here with Stephen Brown.
Hello.
Today we're going to be going over a few issues such as toxic masculinity, the female, what was it, the girl power propaganda,
Yeah.
and just the basic roles of the two genders.
Yeah, this is not about we're not really talking tonight about the gender neutrality thing. We've kind of talked about that before. No, that was sort of denouncing all of the wrong ways. Tonight we want to talk about a lot of the right ways within a right relationship. I mean, yeah, we're going to mention things that are wrong, but just it's kind of an outgrowth or a development of the fact that we were talking about man made in the image of God, and the marriage itself being sort of a fuller picture of that image of God. The roles of men and women and all of that kind of stuff. Well, if there's a place that our society is out of whack, it's there. Well, you know, there's so many different ways to go about this. I just want to open it by saying this. This is actually one of the most important things in your whole life to get right. I mean, there's kind of not a more foundational knowledge of, like, okay, we're obviously Christian, and I believe the Bible is the 100% truth cover to cover. But this is kind of one of those things that it don't matter if you're a Buddhist. Well, it matters, but I mean, if you're a Buddhist living in India or whatever, you still need to know this kind of stuff right here. This is simple, basic, the fundamentals of the right relationship and how to have a successful relationship and all that. Now, I mean, obviously, we believe in everything that the Word of God teaches, and so I wasn't trying to take that out of it. I'm just saying, for every single person on planet Earth, this has application, right? Well, within the masculinity, femininity, which is a hard word for me to say, so I'll probably say it wrong several times. What is masculinity, Stone?
I would say it's all the attributes of a man. You know, you keep your hair short, you're strong, or at least naturally stronger than women. A lot of times men, they don't show as much emotion as women. You work, you're supposed to be the leader of the family, you provide for your family, just generally those kind of things.
I do think it's very interesting that you mention hair. I mean, we have not pre-discussed this stuff, guys. I mean, we literally decide what we're going to do a show on. We might talk about it 5 minutes and we hit record. Now, we'll study on it separately through the week or whatever, which actually this one we haven't had time. This is just kind of one of those things that you know. I think it's interesting. In my mind, maybe short hair is not necessarily connected to masculinity, and yet one of the least masculine things I've ever seen a man do is this. Flick his hair, you know what I'm saying? So it is connected, isn't it? And also, I mean, if you see two people out walking through a field and both of them got waist-length blonde hair, well, there's an issue there, you know what I'm saying? So there actually is something connected to the masculinity of a man and his hair. And I'm not saying that, you know, if a man has shoulder-length hair or something like that, that he's a girl. No, I mean, there's a lot of men with shoulder-length hair out there that could kick my hind end probably. And then again, I mean, I'd like to see you try it. But there is a connection there. I agree with you. You know, in the
watch
Bible.
out though. That was toxic masculinity.
Oh yeah,
right
see,
there.
that was toxic masculinity right there. Me saying, "Oh, bring it on." And the Bible does teach, so let's just get it said. That does not nature itself teach you that it's a shame for a man to have long hair, right? And now, we got to define long suddenly. You know, the mullet generation is now wanting to define long hair. I don't get this stinking mullet generation. Well, I'll say this: if it's enough that you're having to move it back, what does nature, when it says nature, teach you? What does that mean? What, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not saying that the bird is preaching to you. It's the human nature, the having to do this junk. It teaches you that's shameful for a man to be doing all that stuff. Anyway, that's all you're going to get out of me on that. So the masculinity thing, I think I agree with everything that you said. Those are some areas I probably wouldn't have even thought about myself. I do think of masculinity as rare these days. Where's the men? I don't know. They all took flight. I mean, they're gone. It's like we have a world full of sisses, man. But it is sort of an attitude. That's part of it. You could say it's there's a physique aspect to it. There's a body sort of a structure to it. There's a mental aspect to it. Even like you touched on the emotion stuff, I definitely think there's an aspect to it. There's a different way of thinking even. You know, there's sort of a masculine way of thinking. There's sort of a masculine way to grab a cup and drink from it, you know. And there's a feminine way. And I'm with the coffee. I have to do more of the feminine way or it'll burn my tongue. But I agree with what you said. We're going to talk about that a little bit in the relationship, but what is femininity?
The world's view or the Bible view?
Well, let's see. Let's just give us the truth here. You know, we've heard enough of the world for a while. What's the right view of femininity?
I would say, you know, girls have. I mean, they're the ones who have the long hair. Doesn't the Bible say the glory of a woman? How's that verse go? Long hair is her glory or beauty or something?
It does say that her hair is her glory.
Her hair, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they have naturally long hair. They just act in a more feminine type girly way that, I mean, guys just don't act like. They're the keepers at home. Here, help me out here. Give me.
Well, I think that we got to be careful not to mix the roles.
Yeah, that's
with
true.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So femininity is not necessarily, again, the hair thing. I do agree, right? It's a feminine thing for the hair flicking stuff. It's sort of a feminine gesture. So I agree that there's a connection there. So a healthy view of that is, there's ladies are just more attractive, maybe not even attractive is the right word. More beautiful, whatever the right word is, I don't know. With hair. I'm not going to put a line on it, but go ahead. I can see you want to say something.
I was going to say, I really had never really thought about the feminine part.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is define femininity, or however you pronounce that word?
Well, the first word that comes to my mind is tender. Across the board.
That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah. Tender-hearted, in a way. Tender emotionally.
Maybe more compassionate.
Yeah, tender, caring. They're more tender towards children. They're more tender towards people in general.
And animals. I mean,
yeah, tenderness just across in any kind of category, even tender bodies. You know, like I'll never understand the men that want. Now, if you're a bodybuilding lady out there, I'm not knocking you. That's not. I'm talking about. I just don't understand the way of thinking of a guy that wants his wife to be like more muscled up and bowed up and stuff than he is. I mean, that just totally doesn't make sense to my mind.
Well, and there's also a point when there's too much muscle, and
that's what I'm saying. That doesn't, which, I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder to an extent. That's not entirely true, though. There are some things that's just ugly. It don't matter who says it's beautiful. It's ugly. There's some transgender stuff, and I don't care who says it's beautiful and gives them, Female of the Year award or whatever. It's ugly, But there is definitely that aspect of the beauty is in the eye of the beholder to a certain degree. And so I don't want to, I don't want to go there with this stuff either, because You can get into all kinds of trouble, man. And really, you really do drift outside the Bible on that real quickly if you ain't careful. I mean, quickly it'll get you. So Tinder, more than that, though, it's a different way of thinking, too. Femininity and masculinity. You can't narrow it down to a physical trait. You can't narrow it down to an emotional trait or even a purely mental trait. It is something that helps in distinguishing the two genders because it is so across the board. It's even in an approach to, let's say, a hard job. Now, there are women out there who, I mean, mercy. They will tackle anything you throw at them.
And outwork a lot of men.
Yes. But when you start looking at percentages, percentage, let's just use this analogy, what percentage of men versus what percentage of women have ever looked at a bull and said, I'm going to ride that bull? That's a masculine thing, you know? So not that women can't ride a bull, but it's just more likely if you put 1,000 women on an island and 1,000 men on this island and one bull, it's more likely the women never going to try and ride that bull. They don't care nothing about it, you know, but it's in men to think about things like that, to think that bull ain't got nothing on me. I'm going to jump on that dude's back and grab him by the horns and he'll wear down before I do, which is not going to happen most likely. But it's an approach, I'm saying. There's also that approach, the approach even to like, it's snowing outside and there's ice outside. It's negative 20 degrees and the pipe broke or whatever. A real man, because we ain't talking about all the sissy people out there. We're talking about real men, real masculinity. He's not going to look at his woman and say, honey, would you go fix that for me? Don't you agree?
No, he's going to say, honey, you stay in here where it's warm. I'm going and get that thing.
Yeah, he accepts his role. So that's part of masculinity, is accepting your role as a man. And he's going to get out there and sort of tackle the hard tasks, you know. And he's going to pound his chest when he comes back in because he feels like he's done something, and you know what? He has. So if you went out there and fixed your water pipe when it was 20 degrees below zero so that your wife could take a hot shower, you pound your chest when you come back in the door. You deserve it, you know. Masculinity is a good thing. Masculinity built the George Washington Bridge. Masculinity helped us get the interstates and all of this kind of stuff, you know. It's a good thing. And femininity, oh my Lord, it's not just a good thing, Stone. It's a great thing. When it's coming from a woman, when it's coming from a man, it's one of the most disgusting things that there are. But I really do wish, man, I know we're going to change the subject and move off of it and all that, and that's fine. But Lord of mercy, I wish there was a revival of a true feminist movement, which is becoming more feminine. You know, this is what you said earlier. What did you say?
The feminist movement is actually the women masculinity movement. They're going more to.
It's not. It's a masculinity movement among women. That's what it is. That's what you said. Yeah. And man, I so wish. I have 8 children. You know, I so wish before they were 25, 30 years old or 20 years old or whatever that we would have sort of a revival among the women. It's not men, for the most part, that have lost the appreciation for femininity. It's the women that lost it, which is blowing my mind. I mean, I know there's a lot of dynamics there, but I wish the women themselves would stand up against feminism, so-called. I wish women would go out there and protest against that. Not just men, but, you know, women too. Say, hey, we don't want to go be put into the, what's the thing called where the military can draft you? You know, back in the day, they used to have the military draft. I know they don't do it anymore, but they made it now to where you can draft women. I wish women would say, no, we don't want to be drafted in the military. We don't want to have to go and fight wars. We don't want to have to shoot people. We don't want to be put in this situation. I wish there was a sort of a revival of that, and I don't see that happening.
Not with Hollywood, Netflix, and all that junk out there.
Yeah, this may be the first video that gets taken down just because they despise. It's one thing for you to sit there and talk about the disgustingness of transgender stuff, but when you start telling America the truth about the beauty of masculinity and femininity, they hate that even worse. They hate the truth so bad. They hate a biblical marriage. They hate a man actually bearing the image of God the best that he knows how, and a woman too. They hate when we actually sort of apply that conscience that bears witness of a law within us that tells us
They hate
of
the biblical family too.
Yeah, they hate the biblical family. They have done everything that they can for the last 80, 90 years to destroy the biblical family. Just destroy it. And they're succeeding. In fact, I don't even know if succeeding is the right word anymore. They have succeeded.
They've excelled.
Past tense. Yes. Past tense. They've done it. There are just small pockets now left, man, of a biblical family that the world can look at and say, man, that's something I want. There's something in them. You know, and that's what, like you mentioned in the last podcast, the biblical family is supposed to draw people to God. The light of God shines more in a biblical family than really any other thing that there is in life. Well, so we're not just here to talk about masculinity and femininity. We want to talk about the roles of man, and we've touched on it a little bit, but not in any detail, and the roles of women. What's the role of a man first? And don't just say protect, provide. Your turn, Stephen. Give me, I know you're 20, so you haven't lived it. You know, you haven't really been married yet, and you haven't lived this sort of life that calls you to a higher responsibility, but I still want to know what you think about these things.
I think the most important thing a man can do is to lead his family spiritually, to be a spiritual leader, a spiritual rock for them to lean on. Because, I mean, food, water, and shelter, that's just kind of obvious, but to be a spiritual leader, that takes a real man. Because anybody can go out there and work a job. But to actually be a spiritual leader, that takes a real man.
Yes, it does. That's probably, you know, people hear you say, well, anybody can go out there and work a job. And they're thinking, well, that little punk, he don't know how hard my job is. Well, if that's their first thought, that tells me they don't know how hard it is to lead a family spiritually. Because you're right. I've had hard jobs, man. You know, worked in sawmills and laid hardwood flooring and construction and stuff. And I've had some really good jobs too, but I've had some hard jobs doing central heat and air even, and doing pipe work under houses and stuff. And any of them is easier than taking a spiritual responsibility for the spiritual health and well-being of your family. Because that means you have to apply your mind day and night to learn the truth. You have to exercise your conscience to be in a right relationship with God. You have to watch what you say to your wife. You have to be careful of how you're raising your kids and the things that you're teaching them to think. And you have to take time to teach them the sort of commands of God. You're right. That is sort of the whole, whatever free time the man ever had, that takes it all. And really, sort of more proof that you're right is because man has shirked his responsibilities on that is why the country's in the shape that it is in. It comes down to the fathers. I really believe that. At the end of the day, if we're going to hold somebody guilty, it's the fathers. They quit teaching their kids, and they quit loving their wife like they're supposed to. They quit. And as goes the leader, so goes the pack. But yes, so you have the spiritual aspect of it. What else, though, is the role, the biblical role of a man, which can be a man, a husband, and a father. He can be, you're right now a single man. You have a sort of a role in society. At one point, you're going to be a married man, and then in the future, you're going to be a father. But just for men in general, what are some of the other roles that you can think about that you can stand firm on that the Bible teaches?
Men are supposed to be the leaders of the church.
Yes. I'm not going to sit there and talk about that one for all night long, but yeah, the Bible says, I suffer not a woman to teach, and that word suffer means allow, nor to usurp authority over a man in the church. It's talking about in the church. I mean, is it wrong for a woman to have a job in management? And Lord, no. Is it wrong for a woman to run a company and have men working under her? No, but in the church, is it wrong for a woman to stand behind the pulpit and teach? Yes. It's wrong. It's not me saying it's wrong, so if you want to come crucify me over it, be my guest, but it's the word of God that you're killing, not me, because I didn't say it. And I know there's a lot of reasons for it, and it actually quotes from Genesis chapter 2 as part of the justification for that, which we've been going through Genesis in our other podcasts, but that the man was made first and then the woman. And so you're right, man has a role in the churches to be a leader and a teacher. Now, I will say, God actually spoke through some women in the Bible. But even when he done that, it was a judgment against the men because they had totally slacked. It was in a sense supposed to be sort of a wake-up call to them and all of that. But what else?
You give me one.
Well, you've said that he's supposed to be a spiritual leader and he's supposed to lead in the church, but you haven't even said anything about him leading in the home. How does a man lead his home?
Well, he needs to be the head of the house. He needs to be able to handle situations with love and kindness and handle it as best spiritually as he can. As much like Jesus would handle it is how he needs to handle it. He needs to be able to provide for the family, like I mentioned. And he just needs to be, I guess, close enough, you could say, to the Lord to be able to go the right direction or lead the family the right direction.
Yeah. A lot of people refer to it as headship, biblical headship, head of the household, right? That is the man's responsibility. And now I'm not going to sit here and blame a lot of women for not following their husband in that sense because he just won't even get out of bed and do anything. However, I will say if she would, even if he's a slob, if she'll submit to that slob for 2 weeks, or a month or whatever, 2 months, maybe that'll be the one thing that fixes that slob where he realizes, hey, everything's going to fall in around me if I don't do something. Then again, it may not, and I don't know. It can be tough. When men don't do what they're supposed to do, society begins to crumble. But a leader in the home is what you said. I am convinced, man, that the man is supposed to be the primary provider financially. Now, financially, a few hundred years ago or 1,000 years ago, it may have just meant, sort of what we use. We don't do, trading and bartering anymore. So finances used to be how many carrots and potatoes you got, right? But he's supposed to be the provider, the worker, the main source of income. That's not that the women can't make money or anything like that. They might even make more, but that is his job. That's not. I'll tell you this much: if my kids are going hungry, and my wife is going hungry, nobody is going to look at my wife and kids and be like, "Y'all should do something about this." No, they're going to look at me and say, "Hey, man, where's your love for your family? Get off your hind end and do something." Work. I don't care if you got to flip burgers. Work. Don't sit there. I mean, the Bible actually says if a man won't work, let him not eat. And if he won't take care of his family, he's worse than an infidel. That tells you his role is to do that. And there's other places that we can look at too. But a man is supposed to be, if he has children, he is supposed to be a father, which means he's supposed to train up his children. Teach him how to read a tape measure. Teach him how to work. Teach him how to apply those skills. Teach him whatever he can teach him. Teach him manners. Teach him how to pray. Teach him to go to church. Teach him to sing the Psalms. Teach him to read the Bible. All of this kind of stuff. It's our job, Stone. It's our job. It's your job if you're a father. It's your job. Do your job. Oh, you can tell this bugs me, man. It does. I'm holding back so much you don't even know because I know so many men who will come home and grab that stupid remote and put their feet up in a recliner and kick back and watch stuff they shouldn't even be watching while their kids are in there playing PlayStation, killing 75 people an hour on Call of Duty or something, growing up to be totally messed up in the head, and the man knows it's going to happen. He knows it. Don't let him lie to you. They know that their children are going to grow up and be worldly, But what he has to do to change that, he's too stinking lazy to do it. He's not going to put the feet down on that recliner and get up and say, "Son, let's go out here and throw the baseball. Let me tell you some things about Jesus. Let me tell you something about the Bible. Let me tell you something about women." Teach his children about women. There are things to watch out for. There's good things and there's bad things. And let me teach you some lessons, son. Or let's go fishing. Or let's learn how to clean this deer. Whatever. It can be all kinds of things. But the guy would rather sit there and drink his beer and watch TV. And it's because of them that we have this world mess. It's just, let me calm down. I tell you, it really does bug me. That's the one thing I can get super passionate about because I just see it happening all the time. I really believe too, man, the feminist movement would have never started if men would have just done their jobs. women had a justified reason to say, y'all are not doing your job, so we're going to do it for you. And so then, of course, it became something terrible that it should have never become. And it should have never happened that way. But because men did take this inequality, they didn't have this biblical equality where men and women are different, but Lord help us, we're equal, 100%. There's not a man on planet Earth that's more valuable than any woman on planet Earth. We just have different roles, and men just quit, They just quit. They quit being good husbands, started sleeping around, quit being good fathers, quit raising their kids, and it's destroyed this nation. It has destroyed it. And I don't think we're going to see no revival. We can't save America at this point. It's too far. And yeah, Hollywood has helped and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, Christian people, what I'm trying to say is, and I really am about to shut up, so get ready to say something. We can only blame it on Hollywood so much. We can only blame it on Satan so much. We can only blame it on the government or the public school or the whatever so much until at some point you got to think and put your shoes on and do something about it. You see what I'm saying? Okay, I'm calm now. What's the next thing? We was going to talk about what? How about dating? Let's just talk about that one. You're a young man. What's the world say about dating?
Based off of just what I've seen, the world views dating as strictly fun. I mean, kids start dating nowadays when they're like 6 years old.
Oh my goodness, are you serious?
Or 8, yeah. Man. Where their parents are encouraging them. You got a little girlfriend, Nick?
Oh yeah. Well, that's not. Yeah,
but
the parents are sowing these seeds of yes.
But I mean, by the time they're 18, they've had 6 to 8 different.
In their mind, they've had 20 girlfriends by then. Yeah. And even if it wasn't real, even if it was like playground dating or whatever. Yeah, in their mind, that was my girlfriend. That was my girlfriend. That was my girlfriend.
By the time they get about 14, they are dating. They're going places together. Even if parents are there, most parents don't really care what their kids do nowadays.
Yeah.
So I would say the world's view of dating is date to have fun. You don't know how many times people told me, don't worry about getting married right now. You want to live your life, have fun. I'm like, no, that's the wrong view. I can't wait to get married and have that person in my life, but wait and have fun.
Yeah, I mean, if they were saying don't be in a rush to enter into a relationship, in that sense, I would agree. If you were 18, don't be in a rush to enter a relationship. Let God move is what I would say. Just let God lead you and lead a woman and lead y'all together somehow in a church, whatever, some right way. So if that's what they mean, I can understand, but that's not what they mean. And I know that's not what they mean. What they mean is, just live a little, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the things they used to say all the time to me is nobody buys a car without test driving it first. I
had a guy say that to me one time, and I'm like, you're not going to get a bunch of STDs from test driving a car, man.
Yeah, and here's the thing about it. What bugs me so much is that it's Christians that push that type of thinking. So-called Christians. You're not even Christian if you're pushing that type of thinking. At some point, Christianity became comfortable with fornication. Oh, what a shame. That's true. Mm-hmm. At some point, Christianity became comfortable with fornication. So much so, you can get on Facebook or one of these other things and look at all of the stuff that they're posting, the pictures of their kids. I'm saying Christian people that's going to church on Sundays, posting pictures of their kids on Facebook on Saturday night because they just got out of prom. And the stuff they're wearing and the stuff that they're doing. Call me old-fashioned if you want to, man. I'm just trying to help you save your child's soul. I mean, I'm just looking out for your best interest here. The stuff, like they're posting pictures of this was her and her boyfriend this weekend. Last weekend, this was her and her other boyfriend at Nakalula Falls. And 2 weeks before that was her and her other boyfriend here. And every time you're looking at the picture of her and this boy, and you're like, man, I know that boy's up to no good. I can just tell, And here's the sad thing. The parents are celebrating this. They're celebrating it. Becky got a boyfriend. She's going to prom half naked, right? Let's put all the pictures on Facebook and let's celebrate the fact that they're probably sleeping together and everybody knows it. Oh my goodness, man. It just drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. I can't imagine how hard it is to be 20 years old in the year 2021. I can't imagine it. I really appreciate the kind of person you are and the values that you have. Hold to them, and they'll pay off, But the world's view of dating, man, it's perpetuating the slow It's helping to perpetuate the slow destruction of our country.
I believe it gets kids in a mindset where, well, if I don't like this person, we can just break up. I mean, nowadays, over 50% of marriages end in divorcement. I mean, that's a fact. You can look it up, over 50%. I think it's just kind of funny. They go through their whole first 20 years of their life or 30 years of their life breaking up every time something don't work out. Then they get married and they expect everything to just go perfect together.
Yeah, we've taught them the easy way out on everything, haven't we? And you say, well, I taught my kid to, if you get married, you got to stay married. Listen, what you told them ain't what you taught them. What you taught them is what you let them watch and what you let them do and what you did in front of them. What you told them meant nothing if it didn't match the rest of the world.
That's what I was fixing to say. What you let them watch or what they saw you watching.
Yeah, what they saw you watching, what you let them watch, your favorite TV show that you talk to them about all the time, and oh man, I love it. Oh, this character on here. Oh, she's so great. Oh, she's so this. Oh, it's such a great story or whatever. Well, okay, so if you really like them, then your kid is thinking, hey, I want to be like that. My mama loves this girl on this show or whatever. I want to be like her. What you're teaching your kids is where your attention is, where your interest is, and where your joy is, and all that kind of stuff. That's what they want to be, so that's what you're teaching them. It's not what you're telling them. So you may say, oh, son, be faithful. That does almost nothing. And so, again, apparently this is like, we need to just call this when the Christians wake up, episode or something, because we're holding Christian people responsible. It doesn't surprise me when the world don't know how to date. But when Christians don't know how to raise their children to have the proper view of, well, what is dating really about? I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you, and then I'll give you my opinion on it. Okay, so there's a lot of different words people will use. They'll use courting, they'll use dating, they'll use, they used to say going together or whatever. Like there was a lot of words that they used to use.
Courting and dating, I think, is the main ones.
Yeah. And in my mind, it's the same, which I believe I have a sort of right view of dating. Dating is the new word for courting in the way that I look at it. But go ahead, you tell me, what do you think about it?
I generally look at dating as the public school, or nowadays it's not even public school. It's just the general. We date till we break up. Then I like this little boy or girl, so they date till they break up, and it's just all for fun. It's just foolishness is what it is. But I kind of look at courting as two younger people, probably around my age, but it could be anywhere. They say, hey, we like each other, and we've prayed about it. We're gonna start getting to know each other with the intention to even just see if we're compatible, and if we're compatible, then we'll talk about marriage one day.
Yeah, and I guess I said dating and courting in my mind is the same thing, and I need to say why that is the case. Because the way you said it, I'd say, no, that's totally different. If that's dating, then that's not even the way I see dating. Which I see dating through I was raised that you don't date this girl Saturday and this girl next Monday and whatever, No, if you find a girl that you really like, then that's the girl that you're kind of seeing. You're spending time together to see if you really are compatible and do like each other and that kind of thing. And so that's the view of dating I grew up with. What you're talking about is, I don't want to use the word because there may be kids that watch it. That ain't what we call dating. This girl hopping stuff, from one to another to another to another and getting in trouble and all. That's not what we call dating. But nevertheless, what you describe as courting, I believe is the right approach. As parents, I'm a parent. There's a lot of parents that may see this. There's a lot of young people that may see this. We have to be careful. I see so many mothers out there in such a hurry to rush their daughters into a relationship.
I've seen that firsthand, and I have seen it get more than just the girl hurt. I've seen it get a lot of people hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it's like she is missing a relationship and she's trying to get it through her daughter or something, you know. It's like she's trying to live vicariously through her daughter. And it's not just women. Men can do it, but it's, 90 out of 100 times it's going to be the woman, not the man. And they can really push the issue too much. They can be so overly nosy. And then the other thing that you said is true. They can constantly be sowing this idea into their child's mind of, oh, do you like Joe over there? Oh, do you like this? Oh, here's new guy. Oh, you like
It's bad
him?
enough when kids do it, because little kids that do that all the time.
Yeah, little kids.
Even teenagers. I'm not gonna lie. Me and my friends get together, and I'm like, "Hey, I saw that. There was something back there." Well, tell me. But it's bad. It's pretty bad when they're younger kids and the parents doing it. It's just
That's what I mean. And honestly, this is going to sound derogatory. I don't mean it that way at all. I really don't think a lot of ladies actually think about it. That they don't kind of recognize that as something to watch for. And so I don't mean it bad. And a lot of men don't either, right? A lot of us, we just need somebody else to point it out. But I see women with 6 and 7 year old sons. And like you said, there's, a pretty little blonde 7-year-old girl comes into church or whatever, and they're like, oh, what about so-and-so? I shouldn't even said blonde. I mean, it's not about that. I just mean, in this woman's mind or whatever, there's a pretty little girl, right, that comes into church, and you want to write her a letter? But here's the thing. The kid don't even understand what his mama's talking about, really. But they do. We sow the seeds it's like, man, what are you in a hurry to get him married off and out of your house or something? And then the woman is like, no, I don't care if my son don't get married until he's 25.
why not just let him not get married when he's 25? Because
well, then take a chill pill, man.
Because if you rushing him, if you're not careful, you'll get him in the wrong relationship, and you'll totally wreck his and the girl's life.
Yeah, man, so many things come to my mind. It's so we've lost the value of women in the home, their role, the men in the home, their role. And we've lost the value of relationships, period. That's why they would sort of accept and promote the fornication thing. Well, because at the heart of that is that they've lost the value of relationships. What she ought to be, if she's going to talk to her 7-year-old boy about that pretty little girl that come into the church, she ought to say, now, son, let me tell you something. If you really like her one day, that's great. But when you start winning her heart over, you're taking responsibility for her for the rest of your life. Rather than her like pushing him and, oh, won't you take her this little Valentine?
You better be ready to be a man.
Yeah, you better be ready to be a man. She needs to start, if she's going to teach that boy to start liking girls and all this when he's 7, then she better start teaching him to be a man when he's 7.
And the mothers need to be teaching if they're going to be doing the same thing, teaching their little girls how to run a household when the man's at work, how to teach the children in school how to cook, how to clean, how to pay bills and do this kind of stuff. Because I don't think a lot of guys, I know a lot of guys, they're not being taught to work like they should be.
Yeah.
And a lot of girls that I'm sure when they first start learning how to run a house, it's kind of a shock to them. They're like, oh my goodness. Because no one teaches these kind of things
even what
no more.
you're saying right now, people out there in YouTube land are just disagreeing with every word because they have adopted a secular worldview and they don't know it. What you're talking about is pure old path, 2,000-year-old Christianity. That's just the way of life. And honestly, a greater part of half of what we're talking about wasn't even Christianity. It was just values of every man alive, every tribe, even the non-Christian people had these values. And what you're talking about, I shouldn't point like I did, but because I'm not talking about the people that's going to watch this. Most of the people that's going to watch this are people that go to church with us or know us or whatever. And so I'm not talking about y'all, but I'm talking about the world, man. They don't. But let me take that back. I'm not talking about the world. I'm talking about the Christians that have engrafted themselves into the world. The Christians, so-called, that are hearing what you're saying and they're like, oh, he's backward. Oh, he's bigoted. Oh, he's this, he's that, or whatever. And so they're hearing you say, prepare your son to work hard and to be a man and to provide. And if you're going to teach him to date that early, and prepare your daughter to learn how to take care of a home. And
honestly, though, teach them that anyway, because they're going to be dating one day.
Anyways. But the point was they're starting so early with the dating thing, then they need to start earlier with the manhood thing. But they're hearing you say all of that, and they're thinking, that they couldn't disagree more. That's what I'm telling you. That's what the people are thinking, if they've even made it this far. And it's because that's how far away we have gotten from the sanctity of marriage, the sanctity of relationships, the sanctity of human life. Humanity in that way is sacred. Marriage is sacred. That intimate relationship that only a man and a woman should ever share. No two men, no two women, only a man and a woman in a biblical way, married, with a ceremony. Don't just go out in the woods and say, oh, this is my vows, I love you, okay, we're married. Don't do that. It's supposed to be witnessed by your friends and family. Christians have got away from that. And they don't want to admit it. They don't want to think about what it would take to get back to that. And so we're going to continue to perpetuate the disease.
Truth is, yeah, they're against it.
They're against it.
I've talked to a woman whenever I was on a job site, and she was just going on and on about how much money she made in her life and how her husband would watch the kids for her sometimes. And I'm like, oh, you have the wrong mindset. It's so bad it's not even funny. But it didn't matter what I say. Whenever I told her I wanted my future wife to stay at home, she stopped. Her eyes got big, and she was like, but what if she wants to work? I'm like, I'm going to look for one who wants to work at home. That's the woman's.
I'm glad you said it that way, because we don't want to explain it the wrong way. You said, I'm going to seek for one who wants to stay at home. What you didn't say is, I'm going to tie her down, handcuff her to the post if I have to keep her at home. No, that's not what we believe. We don't believe that. We do believe that a woman should be a keeper at home because the Word of God says it. How can we not believe God? God instructed him to be that way. However, I will say this, though. Man, if a woman can make $1 million a year, that's fine.
But she can make it at home. I mean,
exactly.
It's like people think if the woman's at home, she's mopping floors all day and changing diapers. And that is the furthest from the truth I've ever heard.
My wife probably has made more money than me this year, Stone. This is the first time ever. Now, we've been married for almost 15 years. This is the first time ever. And I don't really know if she has or not. We don't have separate accounts and all that kind of stuff. There's another one you should think about. Two become one flesh, two accounts become one account. You shouldn't have, she got her money, I got my money, she pays her bills, I pay my bills. That's not even married, man. That's two people basically just living together in a legal thing. That their hearts are not in it or something, I know I'm just offending everybody tonight. I really am, but
hey, sometimes it's good to be offended. Sometimes you need to be.
So with the women thing, when they don't have kids, am I saying that her man goes off to work and she can't leave the house? Man, no, that's not at all what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is that the house is her primary responsibility. And so if she's leaving and he comes home and the clothes is all in the floor and the dishes in the sink and there's no food or nothing like that, well, I don't blame him for being disheartened about his life. I don't blame him for struggling with his marriage. If he's doing his job, I'm saying. So I'm not saying that a woman shouldn't leave home or anything like that. But I am saying that is her primary responsibility, especially if she has kids. But if she doesn't have kids and her husband goes off to work, or maybe he wants to stay home and keep the kids or whatever, and she's going out and doing a realty sale or something like that, I'm not saying the Bible is
or a ministry or something. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff.
Did you say a ministry? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, don't take it too far, what we're saying. Don't try and put words into our mouth, because I'm not at all. I'm so pro women, it's ridiculous. I mean, I love my wife more than any other person on planet Earth, and she'll come out here right now and tell you that. And she is involved in so many kinds of things. We have like 200 people a month that come here when you combine a church and the frolic stuff we do, and then she hosts a homemaking thing here every single month, and she has like 50 women come, and they do all kinds of stuff, so she has a super fulfilled and active life. It's not about oppressing women, but it is. I mean, we're not going to water it down. It is about holding to the Word of God, because that's where the wisdom is, that's where the truth is, and if we start applying our own wisdom, and let's just say, really, it's just a woman rebelling. In some case, I'm saying it's just a woman rebelling against her biblical role. Well, she may not ever see it, but she's destroying her family. Wouldn't you agree? if a person rebels against their, like if a man says, my wife works, why do I want to work? I don't want to do that. If he rebels against his biblical role, he's destroying his family. I got some riled up on this one. All right. What else? We had one more thing on there, I think. We've been talking 45 minutes. What was
I
there
don't
any
even
more
have a
thing
list.
Okay, I was thinking we had one more thing on there. We was going to talk about masculinity, the roles of men and women, which we really didn't even get into that
The
good.
girl power propaganda.
Oh, yeah. Girl, let's finish with that one. Give us 5 good minutes of what is the girl power propaganda stuff that has been going on for the better part of a decade.
You talking about like how they're pushing it so bad?
I'm talking about how 90 out of the last 100 action movies is a female assassin, a female superhero, a female, even in the TV shows like Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the whole thing revolved around this dominant female that was beating the snot out of. It's so funny, too, because it was like a 5'6" Oriental girl, probably weighed 110 pounds soaking wet. And there's 350-pound bodybuilders in this movie, and she's flipping them around and beating them up. And, it was like just so far-fetched. Anyway, that kind of thing, that they're sort of programming girls to think you are the dominant one.
I think that's what they want to do because they hate the biblical role of a marriage so much. If they can get men to be acting effeminate and they can get women to be the ones going out looking for a job, I mean, not to mention half the men, they're not even with their family. They go make a baby and then run away and don't be a real man. So I think Hollywood, and I don't know who else is out there over all that kind of stuff, but the world, I guess you could say, they want to make women above men in masculinity, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they're just sort of going way overboard to, in their minds, probably combat something that isn't even there anyway. But they're, when my kids noticed it, that said something to me. I noticed it, but I didn't think that they would notice it. Because like in a lot of the new superhero movies, it was a woman playing the central role, or the woman being the most powerful one, or having the greatest superpowers or whatever. And to them, it stood out that this young lady was like ninja kicking all these dudes and beating them down. And they're, I have 3 sons, and they're like, Dad, what's going on here? How's this girl whooping everybody? I'm like, son, it's just the movies. But they're like, well, that don't seem right. Well, here's the one that they noticed it on. Well, I say here the one. I don't remember the exact movie. I'm wanting to say it was something like Spiderwick Chronicles or something. You ever heard of that? It's supposed to be a clean kids movie. I don't remember. Anyway, the boy in that movie kept hiding behind the girl. And she was like the one leading through the woods and fighting off everything.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
And so they're like, Dad, why does this boy keep hiding behind this girl? And see, they know. He's supposed to get out front. He's supposed to put his life on the line. Mm-hmm. And they picking up on it. They're like, why? What? At first they're probably thinking, oh, man, this is a really cool girl. She can do like all kinds of karate stuff, And then by the end of the movie, they're like, man, what a coward that boy is. Mm-hmm. They start picking up on this. The girls are the superheroes now. They're the ones risking their life.
What'd you say, though? By Hollywood, they're trying to basically switch the roles, right?
Yeah, they're switching the roles, man.
In a way, for true masculine guys like me and you and your boys, does it not almost make us want to be like twice as masculine?
Yeah,
because
does.
it's that's a coward, and I'm not going to be like that little dude.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it does cause the pendulum to swing even further on the other side. I mean, I don't want to walk around like with pride or bowed up for no reason, but it definitely causes things. When people begin to skew it one way or another, it just causes all kinds of problems. But my kids, speaking of my kids, they're like starting to pour out. I can't keep them in the bedroom anymore. They're starting to pour out. So we've been talking long enough anyways, man. Let's bring this show to a close. But if you have any closing thoughts of what we've said or what you'd like to leave the people with or anything like that.
I guess I'll just leave you with, we're not against women.
No, definitely not.
We're not against women even making money, or we're not against women in any way. We
even
believe
the Proverbs 31 woman stone.
Yeah, I've read that book or that chapter like so many
Yeah,
times.
and it says she seeks out this piece of land and she buys this piece of land.
Plants a vineyard.
Yeah, she does amazing things. She's an amazing woman. Who can find her, you
Yeah.
know? But there's some out there. Praise God, I married one of them. But yeah, we're not against women doing those kinds of things. We just want to sort of hit the reset button on the Nintendo here, man. Women need to be happy to fall into their role, and men need to be happy to fall into their role. And we could have this great society again. It's not going to happen until we get to heaven or whatever. But you know, it would be nice if we would at least try. Sorry, I did my thing. I started rambling again. Keep going.
For all the guys out there, I guess like me who are single, you need to remember, and I have to remind myself of this too, is one day we will be in that, or Lord willing, we'll be in that leadership position where we have a family. There's a lot of areas in our life we have to man up and take responsibility for. There's a lot of dangerous things out there on your cell phone. You need to stay away from that at all costs, because that will destroy a marriage and a life quicker than about anything.
Sure enough, man. Yeah. And parents teach them that. We could just go on for days with this. The parents giving their 8-year-old kid a phone and never checking up on it again. And by the time he's 12 years old, he has seen more stuff than I've even seen. I'm nearly 40, and I hear of stuff that kids are doing now because they seen something on YouTube or whatever, and I'm like, I've never even heard of such things.
And the worst thing is, it ends up getting them killed.
Yeah. I mean, you actually, let's not even talk about that out of respect. But it's a terrible thing. Let's just quit there and hope that they come back and watch episode 5.
Yeah, I said we do another one sometime.
Okay, so we have an email. We would love to hear how much you hate us over everything that we said tonight. It's wordoftruth2021@gmail.com. And we fully intend to have these in audio form so that you don't have to look at me while you hate me. We want to have these loaded up on Spotify or some other podcast thing that's convenient for y'all so that you don't have to have the YouTube screen on. Hopefully by the end of this week, but I'm going to put full trust in Stone that he'll have it up by the end of next week. And we already have done, this is our 8th show. And we'll probably, so when we start loading them, we're going to load all 8 right up front, and we intend, Lord willing,
to a week.
To continue on doing 2 a week. And we've committed ourselves to do this for a few months at the very least. But I know as of right now, it's in my heart to just, there's no end in sight. So I hope that you will keep supporting us. Share it with other people. Not, I mean, when I say supporting us, we haven't received one single penny, and I don't want a penny over this. I really don't. We had no intention whatsoever of doing any Patreon thing or what. When I say support us, I just mean watch. Give feedback, some comments or whatever. Even if they're negative, at least I know somebody's watching. Support us by telling your friends about it and say, hey, you need to watch these people. They'll make you so mad, you know. But no, I'm not talking about financially. Anyway, we're out.